Hey folks, welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson of HuskerBigRed.com, and joining me as always is my co-host Danny Gillette of thegreatcornholio.org. And we're a few days away from Nebraska and Illinois as the Huskers are going to try and break their winning streak against ranked teams, or their losing streak, against ranked teams, hoping to knock off number 17 Illinois on Saturday. We're a few days away from the game here, Danny, but what are your first thoughts, impressions? How you feeling about the Huskers coming off the bye week?
Well, we were kind of just talking about it before we started recording, and I think it's going to be a tough challenge. Nebraska has the talent to get it done in some areas. In other areas, they just quite frankly lack. So I think it's not going to be an easy game. It's going to be an afternoon game, 2:30 my time on ABC. I know for you, that would be 12:30, right?
1:30, yeah,
1:30? Yeah, I
1:30,
don't know.
yeah.
Time zones always mess me up. But no, it's going to be a challenge. This Illinois team is not a pushover. I don't care if they're not an offensive juggernaut. They have the talent to win. And it doesn't matter the scoreboard as long as you find ways to win. And this Illinois team has done a good job of doing just that.
Yeah, they've taken kind of, the Michigan formula of running the football, playing really good defense, and they're not outscoring. I mean, they are outscoring people, but it's not like they're putting a ton of points on the board. They haven't scored more than 38 points in a game all year. That was the first game of the season against Wyoming, but at the same time, only one team has scored over 20 points against them, I believe. So, if you can keep teams under 20, you're going to win a lot of games, especially when you've got, Chase Brown, who's the leading rusher in the Big Ten. And defensively, they're leading the Big Ten in rushing yards allowed. They're leading the Big Ten in rushing yards per game and passing yards allowed per game. In opponent completion percentage, they're leading the Big Ten. And opponent touchdown passes, they're leading the Big Ten. So I mean, defensively, this team has really just come out of nowhere, and this Illinois defense has been dominant, and that's why they're sitting where they are right now in the top 20.
And Illinois is a Brett Bielema coach team, so it's going to be sound fundamentally. It's going to be tough. A Brett Bielema coach team is going to be gritty. So I think that's exactly what we're going to see on Saturday, and I think it's going to present a real challenge to Nebraska. I mean, they're ranked 17th in the country for a reason.
Yeah, it's not going to be, like Aiden O'Connell throwing the ball 50, 60 times. It's not going to be that. And, which can be a good thing because Tommy DeVito is a solid quarterback, but he's not going to be, dropping dimes like Aiden O'Connell. A lot of those passes that O'Connell completed would not have, I don't think, Tommy DeVito would have attempted a lot of those passes, frankly. He's just not that kind of player. So the key for Nebraska, is going to be trying to make him win the game. If Chase Brown, gets up to, if he has the kind of game like Purdue had running the football 170 yards or so, it's Nebraska's not really going to have a chance in this game. So, that's going to be a big factor. But, the trenches on both sides of the ball, the offense and defensive line, man ball. This is a man ball game, and Nebraska has to show that they can, have the toughness to hold up against Illinois. And it's going to be a good test because, Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota, all of these teams, Nebraska's going to have to play the same brand of football. So I think it's a good way to actually start off this last, stretch, and we're going to see if this team, can hold up against this type of football team.
And what you just said kind of scared me. They struggled against former walk-on Devin Mockabee, and now they have to face Chase Brown. And that's no disrespect to Mockabee. I mean, he is a very good running back, and we saw that against Purdue. But Chase Brown is definitely on a whole other level. I mean, he hasn't rushed for under 100 yards in a game this season. He is coming off a 41-carry, 180-yard effort against Minnesota on October 15th. The game before that, a game in which Illinois won by a 9-8 margin over Iowa. He ran the ball 31 times for 146 yards, and you look down his statistics sheet and you just see a line of 100-yard games. I mean, he is the bell cow for this offense. He is a weapon, and he's more than capable of taking over a game and being that X factor type of player.
Yeah, he is for sure. And I get, that's one key, I think, for Nebraska. We'll just kind of get into it. That's one of my keys is I don't think they're going to stop Chase Brown. I don't think they're going to hold him under 100 yards. But what they need to do is they need to limit, the plus 20-yard runs, the explosive runs. They need to make sure that he doesn't rip off, a couple 40-yard touchdowns. Because the thing about it is, even against a really good running game, if every once in a while, a couple series, you can stop him for 1 or 2 yards on first down, and get Illinois into a 3rd and 7, a third and it can happen on those run teams that they're not used to throwing it. So if Nebraska can just find a way to contain him and just not let him break off the huge runs, force Illinois to drive down the field, I think that will play into Nebraska's hands a little bit, in the sense that this Illinois offense isn't all that high powered. But if Chase Brown is ripping off those 20-yard runs and stuff like that, I think it's going to be a long day for Nebraska.
I agree, because when you let Chase Brown rip off 20-yard runs, you're playing right into his hands. He is an explosive back, and if he starts ripping off 20-yard runs, then it's like stopping a train going downhill. I mean, good luck with that. So I want to make him work on Saturday. I want Nebraska to try and play well in the trenches and not to go off into one of our famous tangents or unrelated segues here. But I think Luke Reimer returning at the linebacker position on Saturday, he's going to have to play a big role. It's a tough ask for him to, try to help the running game, but he is pretty decent at that, and they're going to need all hands on deck to stop a player like Brown.
Yeah, right. They definitely missed Reimer, last week, I think, or against Purdue, 2 weeks ago. Having him back is going to be huge. Of course, Nick Heinrich looks like he's out for the season. So, I mean, there's still going to be some shuffling at the inside linebacker position. But I do think that Reimer, he's been, I think, their best linebacker for this year. He's done a good job of tackling. He's just been around the football. He's one of those guys that, he's not always flashy. He's not the most athletic guy in the world, but he finds the football. He knocks the ball down. He knocks it out. Some guys just have a knack for that. And I think Reimer is one of those guys. So I'm, interested to see how, some of these other guys can hold up. But yeah, I think Illinois is going to, run the football right at us. And, Tommy DeVito, he hasn't had to be spectacular this year. His job's to manage the game, and I think he's only got like 2 interceptions. I mean, he's right there with Michigan's JJ McCarthy in terms of taking care of the football. But at the same time, if Nebraska can put the game on his shoulders a little bit, that might change. And I really think that is going to be the key. Trying to get him into long situations, down and distance situations, and hopefully the pass rush can get home and Nebraska can get its hands on a couple of balls, because I do think that Nebraska has to win the turnover battle to win this game. I just don't see Nebraska winning this game without winning the turnover battle.
And one of the things that really stood out to me during the Purdue game was the missed tackles on the first initial level. I felt like Nebraska missed a lot of tackles defensively, where they had Devin Mockabee of Purdue in the backfield, and they just couldn't wrap him up or take him down. You cannot do that against Chase Brown. You need to make sure you tackle sound fundamentally and lay a hurt on him, because if you don't, it's going to be a long day. It is going to be a long day. So sound tackling kind of goes along with stopping Brown, and that's something that they're going to need to do almost at a perfect level on Saturday if they want to contain him.
And I think, on the flip side, I also think it's going to be really important for Nebraska to get Anthony Grant going. He is 5th in the Big Ten in rushing yards. So, I mean, he's kind of just right below that top tier. But his last 100-yard game was against Indiana. He does have 2 100-yard games in Big Ten play against Northwestern and Indiana. The last couple of games, though, Purdue and Rutgers, they were able to hold him in check. And it's not all his fault. Obviously, the offensive line has not done a great job opening holes. But it's been a couple of weeks since he's had, a 20-yard run. And this would be a great time for him to, get one of those. I don't expect him again to go off for 100 yards. I mean, Illinois is only allowing 2.8 yards per carry. I mean, they've played some pretty tough, run defenses, although I don't know, looking back at when they played Minnesota, I want to say that Mo Ibrahim might have been out for that game, which obviously, makes Minnesota quite a bit different. But either way, this offensive line is going to have to step up. And, we've talked about this before, but one way to help, Casey Thompson and to slow down the pass rush is to be able to run the football. And, we all want to see Whipple be a little more committed to it, but it also has to work too. So, I really want to see if there's some new wrinkles there. And I don't know what, magic could possibly be worked with this offensive line over the last, couple of weeks during the bye week, but hopefully some way they found a way to get those guys playing a little bit better. because they really need to be able to establish the run on Saturday, or it's just I don't see Casey Thompson not getting hit a bunch. I mean, if he's in 3rd and 10, 3rd and long all day, 2nd and long all day, I mean, Illinois is going to have a field day.
One of the things that we talked about, I believe it was the Rutgers game. We talked about the first initial drive to start the second half where they were able to get quick passes out to Travis Vokalek, and I can't remember the other guy. I think it might have been Grant, actually.
Yeah, it was
And
Anthony Grant.
it
Yeah.
was Anthony Grant because he laid the truck stick. That's right. I remember now.
Yeah.
But, they had those 2 quick passes to start the game, and it kind of got things moving. I would love to see more of those types of plays and just, get rid of the ball quickly, protect your body if you're Casey Thompson, and let your playmakers go to work in the open field, open space, get yards after the catch. Vokalek, extremely tough. Anthony Grant, extremely tough. Both can bowl over guys and get that extra yard. So I would love to see a little bit more of that offensively because I think, Trey Palmer is great, but always looking for Palmer, is maybe not the best, especially if you want to rest your defense. And by now, Illinois knows that they have to guard Trey Palmer as well.
Yeah, and it's going to be, this is going to be an interesting game for Trey Palmer because obviously, getting him going is going to be a key. And he's probably going to be, guarded by Devin Witherspoon, a guy who's, just recently been projected as a top 10 pick in the 2023 draft, CBS Sports. So, he's going to get a chance to prove himself against one of the best, secondaries and one of the best defensive backs in the country. I mean, this Illinois team is really good at, intercepting the football. I think they have like 12 interceptions or something. They're another area which they're leading the Big Ten. So, Casey Thompson, as good as he's been throwing the football, he has, kind of been wayward with it. He had 2 interceptions against Purdue, a really costly one in the 4th quarter that, I mean, frankly, if he throws a better ball there, Nebraska maybe wins that game. I mean, Trey Palmer looked open on the play. I know the pass rush is there and he's seeing those guys. So, I mean, I know that goes into it, but Casey Thompson has to take care of the football, and that's going to be tough to do against this Illinois defense, which is really a ball hawking secondary. But I am interested to see, if they've got some new wrinkles with Trey Palmer and what else they're doing on offense. I mean, they've had a couple of weeks. We keep hearing about Tommy Hill. Ramir Johnson is a guy that I still wish we could see more of him in that short passing game. He had like a 16-yard run against Purdue. So, I mean, he still looks like he's got some movement. I've never understood why they didn't try to get him involved. He's a different kind of back than, Anthony Grant. So I just think that, they've kind of misused his talents. And this seems like a perfect time to, get him involved, or to, at least they need to find some new wrinkles, whether it's Tommy Hill or whatever. They can't just, throw it up to Trey Palmer this game and hope it works. Maybe it will. I don't know. But I don't think that's going to happen on Saturday.
And it's not something that you want to constantly force or you want to consider a guarantee either, right? Because you see quarterbacks, they fall in love with their favorite receiver, and sometimes they go to their favorite receiver too much, and defenses catch on to it early in the game. That puts the quarterback at a disadvantage as the game goes on, and then the quarterback looks a little rattled. Another guy, and I know we've talked about before, but I would like to see Marcus Washington continue to play solidly on Saturday. Nebraska is going to need that second weapon because I think Illinois will, have their defensive backs watching Palmer closely. Washington had 3 catches for 30 yards against Purdue. I'd love to see a little bit more output on his part. I'm not saying he's, slacking or not playing well, but I just would like to see him kind of be more involved in the offense, and that starts with Casey getting him the ball because I think Nebraska is really going to need their complementary weapons, I'll call them, to really step up. And that's definitely not a bad thing. I think there's playmakers in this receiving room other than Trey Palmer, but I think they're going to need to play a big role on Saturday, especially now that Trey Palmer, I believe he is the top wide receiver in the country in terms of yards, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he is. In over the last 5 games, he's got 550 yards. So, I mean, and that doesn't even include his 60-yard run. That's just receiving. So basically, his last 4 games, he's created over 600 yards of total offense. I mean, that's pretty incredible. We'll see if that continues. I mean, I think he is going to, get some. I don't think he's had fewer than 70 yards receiving in a game this year, kind of like Chase Brown. So I don't think Illinois is going to stop Trey Palmer. It's a matter of, can they prevent him from getting one of those big 50-yard plays? And if I'm Nebraska, I mean, I definitely think you want to keep trying that. It worked out against Purdue. It almost, you almost found a way to win that game. So it's kind of like, you know, uh, keep it close, and then it's like that old tweet. I know Trey Palmer's down there somewhere. Just hang around, give yourself a chance in the fourth quarter, and then throw it up to Trey and see what happens. I mean, that's kind of what I feel like the formula is for this game. Keep it close, get into the fourth quarter, and then see what happens. I feel like if Nebraska does that, and I think that they are, I think that this team is going to be really motivated for this game. I think they want to end that ranked losing streak, and frankly, I think that these players, they're not stupid. They know what's at stake. They know that if Mickey Joseph doesn't win, that he's not going to be back as the head coach. I mean, they know that. Everybody knows what's at stake here. They don't need to they don't need to have us or the media or anybody else telling them. They've been around this game long enough. They know what's at stake for Mickey. They want to win for him. He wants to win for himself. And they all want to win for Nebraska too. I mean, but I do think that there is that. I think that this team is invested in trying to turn this season into a successful one, and winning this game would be a huge catapult in that direction.
Absolutely. And, it's kind of interesting just to follow up on your point. There's a lot of parallels in terms of the defensive game plan for Nebraska and Illinois, in the sense that, Illinois wants to stop Trey Palmer. We want to stop Chase Brown. So, it's going to be interesting to see the strategies that both teams use to try to nullify the playmakers on offense. And I quite frankly think that's going to be a huge subplot within the game. There's a lot of interesting subplots, as you mentioned. Mickey Joseph. If he wins this game, that's a huge win for him, the program, and quite frankly, the state. And so, that's an interesting subplot. I mean, if the offensive line can hold up, that's an interesting subplot. I mean, there's a lot of games within the game, so to speak, and I honestly think it starts with nullifying the playmakers for both programs.
Yeah, which is going to be, tough for Nebraska. I think it
Easier
is going to
said than
be,
done.
yeah, easier said than done. Yeah, it's, they got to tackle, and the secondary has to tackle. It's really going to be a team effort. Bill Bush though has done a pretty good job, as defensive coordinator. I know the Purdue game they gave up a ton of yards, but overall, I didn't feel like the defense played that badly against Purdue though. I thought Aiden O'Connell made some really, really good throws. I mean, they had him in 3rd and long. I mean, I don't know how many times. I think it was like 12 third down conversions. It was some ridiculous number.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have to be able to get off the field on 3rd down, but the quarterback just made a lot of great plays too. And it was kind of a bad situation for the defense that Trey was scoring so fast, because they were out there for 102 plays. I don't care who you are. If you have to face, you put this Illinois defense on the field for 102 plays against Aiden O'Connell, and they're going to give up a lot of points. I mean, that's just the way it is. Illinois hasn't faced Purdue yet, and that is one thing too. Is Illinois has put up a lot of really great statistics, but I think it's safe to say they have not faced a pass offense like Nebraska's. I mean, Indiana was the best pass offense that they faced, and they're not that great. I mean, we saw those guys, and Indiana beat this Illinois team, which is pretty crazy. So it's not like this Illinois team is they're not like Michigan in the sense that they're just that much more talented than Nebraska. They are very talented. I'm not saying that, but Nebraska's got the talent to hang with these guys, but they've got to get Illinois out of this kind of perfect formula that they've had. And so far, nobody's been able to do that. But, Nebraska, we'll see. I think that emotion and all that stuff is going to help, though. I mean, you look at, Illinois only scored 9 points at Iowa. So, I mean, I think and Iowa does have a very good defense. I mean, let's not joke about that. But I think it does show that, Illinois isn't a team that's going to come into Lincoln and score 40 and win this game. I don't see that happening.
They're not going to score 40, but they're not going to make it easy either. It's kind of an interesting parallel or paradox, whatever you want to call it. It's early in the morning over here. But one thing I will say is, what you saw with Purdue was a very good quarterback who had very, very good understanding of his offense and very, very good timing with his receivers. Not to go back into the Purdue game a little bit, but I'll just say this. That curl route that O'Connell was able to execute with Charlie Jones, the timing was absolutely brilliant on that. And I don't think you're going to see that level of precise execution when, Nebraska takes on Illinois. I mean, that Purdue offense was very, very well executed. Jeff Brom is a good play caller, and that's not to say I'm not saying Illinois is bad and to take them lightly, but I think the Purdue game, to try to compare this one to the Purdue game, I think that's doing a little bit of disservice to Purdue, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, they're just a different, offensive. Although they did, they fell along with the same curse and lost to Wisconsin after beating Nebraska. So,
They
we'll
did.
see. But that just shows it's tough to win on the road in the Big Ten. It is tough to win on the road, and that's something to keep in mind. And look, if Nebraska wins this game, they're tied for first in the Big Ten West again. With Purdue losing, and if Illinois has one loss, but there would be a 3-way tie. And I know that the end of the schedule is still really difficult, but that would still be a great place for Nebraska to be in, and to finally end that losing streak, that losing streak against ranked teams. I mean, 6 years without a win over a ranked team. That's just insane. And Nebraska needs to end that. And I don't know. I feel like they've got a shot. I don't necessarily think they're going to pull it out. I don't think this is a great matchup for them, but I do think it's kind of a good matchup to have it be a somewhat close game. I don't think Illinois is going to. I mean, unless they just totally manhandle Nebraska physically, I think this is going to be a 1 or 2 score game throughout.
And I've said this before, and I'm going to keep hammering home the point until Mark Whipple listens to me. But I really want them to kind of slow down a bit on offense.
Yeah.
Like I think you said earlier, slowing down on offense is going to be key, if nothing else, to give the defense a rest. I would have no problem if this game was 7-3 Nebraska, because I believe clock management and effective clock management is going to be important for this game, keeping the defense fresh, not trying to force quick plays or quick drives. If the quick plays and quick drives are there, then absolutely go get them. But I'm not opposed to kind of, taking dink and dunk 3 and 4 yard passes, running the ball, taking some time off the clock. And again, if the deep throws are open, absolutely take them, but don't make that the focal point of the offense. I mean, because I think this defense is going to need a ton of rest. And, I don't want to see them out there for 102 plays on Saturday. I'll say that right now.
They do need to do a better job of that. I think Nebraska hasn't done a great job of playing that complementary football, and they need to do a job of that, of just recognizing that this defense could use a rest sometimes. We've seen, that Oklahoma game was a great example of, was 3-and-out punt, and they would have the ball for sometimes less than a minute, it seemed like, of actual time, and that's asking a lot of your defense to constantly go out there without rest and, get the football run at them. And, if that happens, that's a perfect recipe for Illinois. So Nebraska does need to sustain drives, and I think it's going to be key, and they've been pretty successful at it. Most of their drives this year of scoring early, and I think they really need to do that on Saturday and kind of set the tone and just hang around. Just hang around, be within 3, within 7, have the lead or whatever. But as long as this is a 1-score game going into the fourth quarter, no matter how you make that happen as Nebraska, that's got to be the goal.
And then on the defensive side, putting Illinois in 3rd and longs and stopping Illinois on 3rd and long is going to be extremely important. You don't want to give this Illinois team new lives on drives with first downs. Because we mentioned Chase Brown and, the type of element that he brings to the program. Getting off the field quickly defensively is also important, because the offense absolutely has to play complementary football. The defense can also help itself by, making sure that, it's 3-and-out, and, making sure that they can, execute their plays at a high level. I mean, I think it's going to be extremely important for them that they force Illinois to get uncomfortable. They make them punt, and they get the offense back out on the field, because I don't want to give this Illinois team new life. And first downs, in my opinion, for this game are new life for Illinois.
Yeah, they definitely need to do a better job on 3rd down, on 3rd down defense, especially because they did force Purdue into a lot of, third and I mean, a lot of them were medium situations, but they just needed to get off the field more, and that's ultimately, why they lost the game. I mean, the last drive, Purdue converted a couple of 3rd down and longs to, to run out the clock. So, that's going to be key, is when you get them in those situations, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, whatever, you have to get off the field. And in Nebraska, like I said, I think they're going to have to come up with a couple of turnovers in this game. I just don't see Nebraska winning this game without a couple of turnovers. And I don't see him winning this game if, Chase Brown rushes for, over 150 yards or whatever. I mean, maybe that barometer is even a little high. I think they probably need to keep him under like 120. But those are a couple of kind of my keys, I guess. Is they've got to limit the sacks on Casey Thompson, keep Chase Brown under like 120 or so, and they've got to force one, probably two turnovers. I'm going to say Nebraska has to get two takeaways to win this football game.
Keep Chase Brown under wraps. Convert defensively on 3rd and long. I want to see the Illinois punter out a lot. And then I guess my last key is to have the offensive line just tread water. I mean, at this point, I'm not expecting any more good games from them, but just tread water offensively, because that will also help get Anthony Grant going. Even if they can just get a little bit of a push, that would be better than what has been going on recently. And I guess I'll just add a 4th key. We just talked about it. Make sure to have longer drives offensively, because the defense is going to need the rest. I know that kind of messed up the 3 keys to the game, but there are a lot of keys if Nebraska wants to win, because this Illinois team is an extremely tough opponent.
And and I think you hit some key points there. For the offensive line just has to not lose this game. Basically, that's my opinion. Like you said, tread water. They just need to not they just need to not drown the offense, basically, and be like, that kid that doesn't have the life jacket that's drowning, that pulls the other people down in the pool. Like, that's the offensive line right now. Casey Thompson's trying to swim away, and this guy and the offensive line just like grabbing his feet and pulling them under. So just stop it and tread water. And if they can do that, if they can just not be horrible, then I think this team has a chance. Because Nebraska's got playmakers: Casey Thompson, Trey Palmer, Anthony Grant, Marcus Washington. I'm waiting for him to hit a deep pass, because he did it at Texas with Casey, and I think. I think he's an X factor. Tommy Hill, I'm going to say Ramir Johnson again, but Nebraska's got the pieces to make this an interesting matchup, but they do have to play, they have to play the perfect chess match, so to speak. They can't make mistakes. They gotta do everything right, and the offensive line can't drown the entire offense. That's what I'm worried about.
Tommy Hill really, really intrigues me, because he is fast. We saw him on kick return against Purdue a little bit. He did play wide receiver in high school, so he is a really intriguing option to me. Hopefully he can, make an impact at the position and kind of give Nebraska that third weapon offensively. I honestly don't know what to think about Ramir. I know we talked about it earlier. I don't think he's going to be a big part of the offense, at this point in the season, but I'd like to see him, at least get the chance to make an impact. I'm not exactly sure why he hasn't this year after they hyped him up so much in preseason, but it's just one of the many mysteries of talent that Nebraska football has had over the past couple of years.
Yeah, it is pretty strange, but we'll see what happens with that on Saturday. So now I guess we'll transition to our predictions part of the show here. We're gonna, put out some bold predictions later on in the week, and then we'll offer another kind of score prediction probably then. But as of right now, we're sitting here on Tuesday, so we still got a few games, but the spread, I don't know if you've checked it out, but it's about 7.5 points favoring Illinois. It started at 6.5 on Saturday, went up another point or so. Essentially, Nebraska needs to, lose by a touchdown or less to cover the spread. It seems pretty basic about right. I'm not, in terms of predictions, I'm not willing to say that, I think Nebraska's going to win this game, but I do think that they're going to cover the spread. I do think this is going to be a close matchup, and I'm going to say that Illinois wins 24-17.
I was going to say 27-17 Illinois, but yeah, I just think this defense might be a little bit too much for Nebraska, not because they don't have the playmakers, but because Illinois is just a sound defensive team. And then I think, honestly, Chase Brown is going to absolutely have a field day with the run defense, because if Devin Mockabee can do it, then Chase Brown can do it too. I don't know. I just don't have high hopes for the run defense. But we'll see. I hope I'm wrong. I as always, I hope I'm wrong with every single prediction I have.
Yeah, I hope I'm right when I pick Nebraska, but there wasn't, when you look at everything, it doesn't look like a great, you talk about Nebraska's run defense has struggled. Well, they're facing the best running back in the Big Ten. You talk about, them being able to run the football and how they need to do that. Well, this is the number one run defense in the Big Ten. And, they're only allowing opposing quarterbacks to complete 48% of their passes. And so there's just there's a lot of things statistically that make you think that Illinois is not going to be a great matchup for Nebraska, but you never know. I mean, sometimes, all that stuff just completely gets thrown out the window, and we might see, Illinois might be coming into a buzzsaw with this Nebraska team. You just never know. And, with interim coaches and, road games in college football, there's just a lot of different variables. So, I mean, I do have hope. I think this is going to be a competitive game, but I just haven't seen anything from Nebraska this year that shows me that they can beat a team like Illinois.
Yeah, me neither. With that being said, I do think this team will be ready to play. I just don't know if they have enough weapons on both sides of the football to get the job done. And I'm not sure that they are as fundamentally sound as Illinois. And, that will ultimately, I think Nebraska may hang around, but I think when push comes to shove, Chase Brown is going to wear out the defense. And I think, Illinois will be able to kind of scamper away, if you will, with this win.
Yeah, I think the offense will get, a couple of big plays, but I think Illinois will probably come out ahead or even in the turnover battle. So, that's where I think the difference will be. I think Nebraska will have some chances in the fourth quarter to tie it. I just think it'll be the same, kind of the same thing as Purdue. They just weren't quite able to get it done. But, that doesn't mean that it's going to totally ruin the momentum of the season. That will drop. If they do lose this game, it'll drop Nebraska to 3-5, which is not really where you want to be. We've talked about this before, of that goal trying to get to 4-4, for that bowl game going into November, and the prospect of, basically, with you look at Michigan on the schedule, if you lose this game to Illinois, you have to essentially sweep Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa. 2 of those games are at home, but you have to sweep those 3 games in order to make a bowl game, and that's a tough task, I think, for Mickey. So this is really is a must-win game, I think, for Mickey's chances of being the permanent replacement, the permanent long-term head coach. I think if he wins this game, he's going to be the head coach eventually. That's just kind of how I view it. I think this is the fork in the road. If they lose this game, I don't think they're going to make a bowl game. I think they're going to end up 5-7, and I think we'll have a new head coach. If they win this game, I think they're definitely going to finish 6-6, maybe 7-5, and I think we'll still be on the Mickey train next year. So I know that's a lot to put on this game, but that's where we're at with Nebraska football right now.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see win or lose the fallout from this game. But I think it's going to be a good game. I think Nebraska will be ready to play. And I think we're back at home this Saturday, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought. We're back at home, so I know the fans will be ready. I think the team will be ready. I think they're going to want to put Purdue behind them. So we'll see. I hope my prediction's wrong, but I just think that Illinois, when it comes down to it, is going to make 1 or 2 more big plays that really kind of swing the game in their favor.
Yep, I agree. I do think I think we'll be proud of the Huskers for their effort, but just not quite there. But I mean, there's you can't debate it. Mickey Joseph does have this team playing better, and they played pretty well after the first bye week with him. So I'm excited to see what changes and adjustments have been made, and I have hope. He's given me hope. So there definitely is some optimism going into Saturday, but it is going to be a really tough task. At the same time, the Huskers are due for a big win. So maybe the universe will finally get rid of all this heartache and give us something to really be happy about on Saturday. I don't know.
It's been a long time coming, so that would certainly be nice. I mean, 2 happy Saturdays in a row with the Coleman commitment this past Saturday and an Illinois win. That would be great.
I mean, I don't want to say this, but frankly, college football gods, you owe us a little bit of karma. So come on.
I mean, we haven't gotten it yet, and we've suffered enough. So I don't know if they're ever going to come around and help us, but maybe Saturday is the day.
Maybe Saturday is the day. So, all right, folks. Well, as we'll wrap it up here, you can find all of our content here on the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. So make sure that you like and comment on our videos, subscribe to our channel, so that you don't miss any of our Nebraska content, get in and interact with us. That's why we're here, is to build a community of hardcore Nebraska football fans. You can always check out, my content at huskerbigred.com. I'll have lots of previews and stuff about this Illinois game. There's going to be lots of great content from Danny over at thegreatcornholio.org. And we will most likely be back on Friday. We'll look into do some bold predictions and kind of our final thoughts on this Illinois matchup. So let us know what you think. And as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.